Right, seeing that's 6 P.M., I'm gonna call to order the planning commission meeting for the village of Belleville, April 8th, 2026. 6 o'clock. Roll call.
Vice Service.
Present.
Chance Kuzmarski.
Here.
Gary Ziegler.
Here.
Steve Bungard is absent. Jared Wells.
Here.
Larry Enlow.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Right, any public comment tonight?
I have no one signed up. Nobody's here, so.
You know. Consent agenda. All items in the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a commission member requests it, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered the first item after the approval of the consent agenda. And the only item tonight are the minutes from the March 11th, 2026 planning commission meeting.
Sorry about that.
I'll move approval of consent agenda.
Second. Oh. Larry, can I have a second? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. And that brings us to number 5, the certified survey map for 309, 311 Alberts Drive.
It's just basically splitting one of the duplexes, the last one that's closest to the well house, into two separate taxable parcels. You're allowed.
Are the other two duplexes all over there the same? Isn't that like a whole row of duplexes along the road there? And are they all through that line already or
No,
no?
it's just all the ones that are completed and have occupancy are occupied. And I guess the occupant on this one wanted to buy it.
So one's gonna be owner occupied and one's gonna be rental.
Yeah.
Or
Could be. And I think that's probably essentially the plan for all of those.
And if all of them get owner occupied, that would be a good thing. Anyone have any comments or discussion beyond, reading through Ian's staff comments? I see no problem with it.
I'm gonna be consistent with every other one that's going to the blades. I'll make a motion to approve the zero lot line.
Motion for Chance, second. Gary, and then second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next item of business is a site plan review for 227 Frederick Street.
Here. They knew. Okay.
So here. This will be a really short meeting.
Patient?
I mean, they've had every other meeting with them here, so they should, I would assume they would have known it's here.
No?
I guess if they're not gonna be here, we'll take some cans and.
I guess I'm gonna propose that we deal with item 7. And that should wrap up fairly quick. Give them till 6:15. Is that acceptable, everybody?
Yeah, we can go with this.
So we only have one thing for next meeting. We have an official use permit for the house on 911 James. They want to, if you've been to the website, she's got a bakery stand there that she wants a conditional use permit to display indefinitely. But that's the only thing I have so far.
at some point, maybe not next meeting, maybe the meeting after, we'll be looking at CUP amendment for Kate Machine. We'll probably give this stuff for next meeting for the Kona Ice facility with their CUP. I know they're finishing up the phase 2 of Badger Trails, so that'll be submitted for final plat approval shortly. Maybe next meeting, maybe the meeting after, but I know they want to get started on that after Carp C and everything in September, if they can. Yeah, that's all I can think of right now.
So speaking of Carp C, are we taking the urban service area amendment for whatever the one is across from the park?
It's got to get annexed in.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess that was, that should have been the question. What's the annexation timeline for that?
No idea.
Okay.
I mean, they have drafts of the development agreements for, what is it, across from Pig is called Ontario Estates.
Yeah.
And then Park Meadows is across from Beaver Road.
Yeah,
They've had them for months.
yeah, I was gonna say, I thought we reviewed those, so, okay.
But then every once in a while they'll pop in and be like, what do we need to do? Like, okay, sign it or, I don't know.
Maybe 10 after.
Do you have a phone number for them again?
I don't remember, I got an email address. I think I could try to shoot you.
Yeah, it's like, hey.
Some meetings we have run so long and other times like that. They're just held up.
What were they proposing again? They were here.
There was a church, that was in St. Mary's with the
22 units or whatever it
Yeah.
was.
kitty corner from the other group of, what, fourplexes or eightplexes?
Yeah.
I lived there when I first came here, 27 years ago, when I was first married. There's nothing in Belleville to rent. Did they change much with their proposal?
I don't think we've got a new proposal.
So they didn't provide anything new. I guess,
They gave up some comments.
so I know they're working with like they brought on another gentleman, right? Who was
I
kind
think
of,
the guy that I'm talking to now, the guy who was supposed to show up tonight, is the actual owner of the property, and he was partnering with the Kismet Development, and they were gonna be the builders, and they were gonna share equity or something like that. I mean, I think he's just kind of looking for direction from you guys, because, I mean, they came for the cake at the can with the concept, whatever, and nobody really had any feedback, and then, we had the public hearing, and of course, the public didn't like it, and then it was like, no, don't do that, and so now I just think they're looking for what can they do there.
I just sent his phone number to you guys in an email like a month ago.
Oh, yeah.
I sent his contact info, but I don't remember. Do you remember his name?
Chad, Kadon.
We're gonna keep that, I think rectory or parsonage, right?
Like, oh,
As of right now.
That was the initial plan, yeah.
Originally, the diocese wanted to move the rectory, but I don't know how you build up, or how you move the house that old and all that brick. There's no way.
I mean, there are people who can't do it. It's just.
Yeah.
How much are you?
Costs a fortune.
Yeah, I talked to the priest about it. It was a thing.
Because there is a priest, one of the priests is living in their house.
trying to find the email, but because I BCC you guys on these, it's hard to find them.
Got it.
Okay, it's fast. I'm like, it's on a sticky note on my desk at the other building.
Could you go get it quick?
No. I'm not,
We'll time you.
I haven't had any timing since high school math.
I do it to my kids all the time. Timer. Shoes. Did we have any
Thanks, Jeff.
opinions on what we got to do?
Hey, was wondering, because
I know it's hard. Just a lot of things.
okay, I'll let them know. Thank you. But it'll be here in 8 minutes.
Well, is that gonna be past 6:15?
Technically.
The oat show.
Well, we've been talking to two different, people, interested parties in land, about land on the west side. One of them's looking for like a 4 or 5 acre chunk for like a, wellness center, not like Belleville, but like mental health geared, like counseling and stuff like that. Because they currently have a practice, it's 2 systems, I have a practice in Monroe, but they want to move their practice closer to Madison. And the other one was a HVAC company. So.
Back on and we're out of recess.
Yep.
All right, yep. So, the agenda item is a site plan review for 227 Frederick Street.
Site plan review, yeah, otherwise known as kick the can, hopefully. Get some ideas. All right, my name's Jack Kavan, and I'm the owner of that lot, I bought it. For some of you that may not know, the church is requiring me to demolish and raise the workup center portion of that facility that's there. And yesterday I had a meeting with Debbie Baumgart, on site, just to look at it. She belonged to that church. I think she wanted to see the church as much as anything else. And we were tossing some ideas back and forth. So the idea of the 23 unit is probably not a good idea. And so if you guys here on this board, were offended, so Jake is somebody that I work with. He is not a partner of mine. He would have been the builder. He was heading this up, and I think that, just to put that to rest, I think that he didn't communicate quite well enough. Or at least he thought we were down a track that really wasn't true. So as I understand it, the way I hear things and village people that live in that exact area talk, one of the main concerns is visibility and feeling like they're being encroached on with a 2-story building. And the lack probably of some kind of workers that would alleviate some of that problem. So cutting to the chase, I would think that townhomes or row housing might be an option for that area. And so I kind of have 2 ideas. I like the idea of row housing as opposed to like a smaller, more square structure because it utilizes the site better. And then you'd have that frontage on 2 sides with the sidewalks. These would be pushed up towards it, kind of like similar to Chicago brownstones. Anyway, I have two ideas, and that's one of them. And the other idea that I almost like as much as any is to keep the other section, I don't know what you want to call that section.
Church Hall.
Church Hall, yeah. Keep the church hall intact as the superstructure of the church hall. The worship center gets demolished. Take that footprint and continue that L in similar shape and size. Now, there would be cladding and there would be things done to the outside of the existing hall. Continue that L in single level apartment buildings with individual, there would be a common space like you would see in normal apartment buildings. You walk down the hall, go to your door to get in your apartment. I think this would set up then really nicely for each apartment building to have its own entranceway directly to the outside. And there would be adequate parking there as it kind of sits. So it's really, it's a facelift of what is already there with a similar wing where the worship hall was. And I talked to Debbie a little bit, keep these ideas around now. That's, just her and I talking, but so those are my two ideas for this site. So there's too much opposition for the apartment building. And so then we're faced with two things, in my opinion, that I'm presenting. And that would be the row housing, townhomes, or the redevelopment of what's already there. Excuse me, and working with that. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Was hoping to get some ideas, or some feedback rather, as to how that's being received.
How many units are you envisioning?
Okay, so I think the site, if we were to redevelop the site as single level apartment buildings, there's no way I'm getting any more than 12, and the number might be 10. This is all very preliminary on my part. Somewhere between 10 and 12. And there again, I haven't brought an architecture on board, and put footprints on this lot to see what townhomes would be, but my guess is that there again, a minimum of 6 and maybe a maximum of 8 that way.
And the townhomes would be single story too then? Or would they be?
No, they would be that, in that instance, they'd be 2-story. Mm-hmm.
That was one of the thoughts I had actually had, was something similar to like, actually the brownstone idea came to mind. Townhomes that kind of come up closer to the street. Do you think there's adequate space there then, like you could almost alley around the back and they have garages that face the back? Is that kind of your thought?
Yeah, that's the way those would have to be. I think so. I think that's exactly right. So the front would, what cookie cutter, not cookie cutter, but as if there were no garages.
Yep.
Like front yard, like Chicago brownstone.
Yeah.
And then we'd have to, yes, and the garages would fit to the
So
back.
I think that would assuage some of the neighbors' concerns and then give some standoff between the structure itself and their, especially the folks to the west. Give them some standoff distance. I
Do like your,
like your concept of preserving the hall. I think that's gonna just not be fiscally in your benefit to try and turn that into apartments and go from there. I'm just trying to, I like the concept of preserve that building, but I don't think it's of significant historical value that feels to.
Yeah, as somebody who was born and raised in a church, went there my whole life, I would agree. If you were going to save part of it, I would have thought you to save the worship part. I
sure would like to say it was a condition of the sale.
That would make
Interesting.
apartment with lofts or something like that with the way that church is. So,
I mean, my, and I have a little bias because we were actually, of all the people on this commission, I live the closest. I'll call it basic. You know, I walk by that property regular with my dogs in the morning, things like that. A lot of people bought in that neighborhood because it's not Madison, it's not the suburbs, it's, you know, single family dwellings. And I also have been a loud voice that we need to diversify the housing in the community. So trying to balance those things, right? And adding apartments or multifamily diversifies that. I like the concept of doing some sort of row or townhome. You know, it's got a little bit of a historical vibe that doesn't really fit the community, but at the same time would actually make it a really unique property. Make it aesthetically pleasing as opposed to just a big box plunked on there. You know, I'd like to see you get your bang for your buck and get as many units in there and figure out what that's gonna look like. And I think, yeah, if we hug the sidewalk, especially on the Frederick Street side, you know, maybe an alley coming in off of school. You know, maybe that, again, assuages some of the concerns from that neighbor to the west. Get multifamily. It's not gonna be cheap multifamily. I think that's fine. I mean, people are gonna pay a reasonable market rent for it, but.
I appreciate everything you're saying and it sits well. I appreciate that. The one thing that I kind of keep hearing is that, well, where's the affordable housing? So the plan B, which would be the single level apartments, because half that infrastructure is there, the decreased cost of all new would allow these to be at a price point that probably is as competitive or more competitive than anybody else. Well, you know, I don't know what's all here in the village, but other, like the apartments, kitty corner that have been here and established, they probably have a pretty decent price point. But that would be one way to get something pretty darn affordable in the form of rentals. So, but, you know, I'm not persuaded myself either way myself, so.
Right.
By getting the feedback and speaking with Ian several times, these are some kind of ideas that might work.
well, I mean, yeah, we've been talking affordable housing for years now, and how you define that is the, you know, my concerns or my dislikes with the previous plan was 22 units, 38 parking spots. And that wasn't probably going to be enough parking spots for everybody. So that is an issue. I don't understand, and I'm not a builder or a developer, but I don't understand building, whether it be apartments or whatever in Wisconsin and not having garages. I mean, I'm 60, I'll be 62 shortly. And if I move into an apartment or something, I'm going to want a garage to park in. So, you know,
I agree with you wholeheartedly. There would be more than adequate space to include some enclosed parking in the L-shaped. There would be more than enough. That parking lot is quite large. And it
good size, yeah.
wouldn't be encroaching on any of it for the footprint of the building. And so some of that could be, but I agree with you, but I know people that build and these type things, and I don't know where everybody comes from, but yeah, they rent. And I'm with you. I need at least a carport.
Yeah.
But they rent.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's the other option, is to do new ones, and instead of doing it like a 2-story single unit, it's like the brownstone where it's 2 flat. You've got a rental unit on the first floor, a rental unit on the second, you stack that way. That's how home design. And that's more of a new urban concept, but that would give us a little bit of density. They would be smaller units. That would probably, again, bring them back into that price point that we're talking about. And I think at the end of the day, it's, again, you're the property owner. You have to balance what you want to invest and how long you want to appreciate a return on that investment. And that's, I don't envy the position you're in there and having to come in front of all of us and try to figure it out. Like I said, we talked about affordable housing for a long time. There's a time and a place to achieve it, and to fit the aesthetic of this neighborhood, maybe that's not necessarily the primary goal. It's more to blend into the neighborhood, but at the same time appreciate some density.
So just a little bit about myself, because I don't think anybody here knows me. I've done some building, I've done duplexes, and I've done an apartment building for unit. And they've all been new construction. I'm not trying to build the cheapest thing or what would garner the biggest returns. Of course, that's a factor, but my primary issue is to give solid housing for a solid price. That's just kind of how I've approached it. I don't have a huge portfolio. Not that this even matters, but the reason I bought that through Chris Lowshaw is that I thought at the time, or at least what I was told, is that it was slated for, it could be, or at least you folks. Now, I don't know, there's obviously not a lot of truth to this, that it would house a 10 or 12 unit apartment. So we think that your typical rectangular 2-story open lot parking is not correct for that neighborhood. So I'm fine with not doing that, but I would like to do, as we move forward with this, what is in you guys' mind. And so what I would like to do probably is put the footprint together in both case scenarios for maybe a future meeting with some kind of renderings, if that's the next step, for you to look at, I guess.
I mean, I would think so. I don't love the process, and I spoke to this, you weren't at the meeting, I believe your other representative was. Part of the struggle is the process. We have to do some of the zoning things like that technically before you come before us with your site plan. But at the same time, it's really hard for us to sit here with the hypotheticals. So, I mean, I think.
Your zoning code has changed, but it still would require a rezone.
Right. But I think coming forward with a concept which you want it to look like is going to make the rezoning petition easier for us. Because then we know what we're getting into. We know how to respond to our constituency, the folks who live in the neighborhood, the community who are going to turn out for that meeting and have their voices heard, as we've seen. So the more prepared you can be up front, the more successful you will be.
Okay.
And anybody else chime in here if I'm off base, but it's been my history here that folks who come before this commission with their ducks in a row, move through the processes, usually a little cleaner.
A little cleaner, right? I have a question. Would the zoning petition be different for either one of, let's just say A or B, and maybe none of those are acceptable, but.
Once you get up to that size density, pretty much anything more than a fourplex that would require a rezone.
But would it be the same rezoning name?
Yeah.
Whether it would be a 10 unit single flat redevelopment or whether it be 8 row houses?
Yep, that's exactly the same.
Anything over 4. And again, we can't tell you how to balance your budget, I'll call it, what you want to put into it, and what you get out of it. I think my opinion is less than the previously proposed density, something that provides, I'll say I'll call it standoff distance. So that's the standoff distance from the neighbors, some sort of enclosed parking, not maybe for every vehicle that would be there. But but that, because that just fits with the vibe of the neighborhood, right? You know, I recognize there's an apartment across the way that's been there for some time, but that one again has a little bit of standoff distance because it has that lot that Village owns. It appears that it sits on a much larger lot than it actually does because the village has that parcel that I don't know what the village would ever do with that other than mow it. They have that in their benefits. And yeah, I mean, I appreciate you wanting to keep rent as affordable as possible, but again, I respect.
Well, that's what I hear. That's what I'm hearing is.
I'm less concerned about it with this project and this location and other places.
Yeah, I mean, every time somebody comes in with a plan, affordable housing gets brought up. I mean, again, how do you define affordable housing? And,
Right.
you know, and again, understanding that, you know, you're not in this to lose money either, but, so, yeah, I'm not as concerned in that little corner lot with the affordable housing as I am with some of the bigger developments that are coming into town, so.
Okay.
And the other part of the problem with the process, the way it works is I know your counterpart met with Ian and Gabe and whoever and discussed things and came to us and got a little input. Well, then again, other than chance, none of us live over there or, you know, probably maybe it's our fault, but maybe we need to do a little better homework before somebody comes in like that. But, you know, probably some of the exact same concerns that the citizens came, and that's the most people we've had at a meeting in a long time and the most vocal. You know, we almost need to reverse the process where before any developer spends a lot of money, just bring in this very on a napkin, even, you know, here's what the design's going to be and what we're thinking, get the input and then go back and do that. Because, you know.
Yeah, well, again, I apologize that happened, but
You're not the first person that's happened.
I did meet with Jake actually that day, earlier that day on this particular, well, going in history on this meeting coming up and for whatever reason, he was portraying to me and he didn't think that there was any opposition to this idea, that's what the village wanted. And in earnestly, that's what he really thought. So he's probably as unprepared as anybody.
Well, and to a point maybe, but like I said, he came to the six of us that were on the board at that time, or on the commission at that time, and didn't think of some of those things. And then when you get the neighbors that it's going to affect every day, that's when, like I said, it's almost like the process should be reversed. And it should we should have the public hearing and look at those things first and then come to this body for approvals and everything. But, yeah.
Okay. So would the next step be that same zoning meeting? Is that kind of,
I mean, you can go either or. I mean, you can.
what's the either to zoning?
You have to do two things. You have to get a rezone and you have to do a site plan approval. The site plan is where you're going to end up spending the most money because you're going to have to go out and get your.
Well, the concept plan, don't mind spending some money on, but
Yeah.
full-fledged bidding documents that's.
Well, not so much big documents. You would have to have as-built, but you definitely need to have landscaping plan, lighting plan, you know, stormwater, at least the elevations and basic design of the building, that kind of stuff. So you spend some money. So if it could go either or site plan or rezone, they'd be conditioned on each other, I suppose.
I would point out though that, so your rezone is where the notice to the neighbors comes, and that's what happened. I think previously it's not the village and the staff, you know, were open to ideas and stuff. And so, well, this commission, they had to kick it a can and said, well, we're open to those ideas, but then the neighbors come in and they have completely other ideas that we might not be aware of.
Those are not those ideas.
No, so we don't obviously notice until you've put in that rezone application. Doesn't mean, I guess, you can't go out on your own and reach out to the neighborhood and introduce yourself and see what they be, you know, get that feedback, you know, spread some goodwill before you come spend the money. They're like, I can't do that for you because I'm away under the statutory requirement to send it once you turn in the application to rezone. Site plans don't have any noticing requirements to them. So if you do that one first, and then we put the notification into the rezone and everybody gets, and they're freaking out on something that we've already approved as a site plan, I could see that once again, us, harboring some ill will around the neighborhood, just so. Yeah,
Well, and it's kind of what I was gonna suggest is that maybe that's what you need to do, we just got done with elections here, so there've been people knocking on doors and that kind of stuff. That might not be such a bad idea if just.
I like the idea.
Just some, even if you had something on a 11 by 17 sheet of paper that here's what I'm thinking without all the details that Ian mentioned previously, and just get the people's opinion, see what they think of, that, and then before you go out and spend a lot of money on anything else, so.
it's all the neighbors, I believe it's a 200-foot radius for his rezone, so.
Maybe not the one next door, trying to black and white, but all the others.
Right. My question is, if the topic is to rezone to, let's just say Airbnb, and then there's a bunch of people that live in the village chiming in and saying, oh, well, whatever, we don't want, high density or whatever their piece is. Well, how would they ever, without doing that, how would they ever know what was ever gonna be there? I mean, how do they know what they're not liking? If we just went to zoning again and all we're doing is saying that whatever the name is for the proper zoning for this, let's call it RH4, whatever. Well, how would they even know what to contend if we're, still trying to figure out, is it gonna be a 12 unit single flat, or is it gonna be row housing? What would they even contend with? I mean, am I asking that question right? Like, what would they even, just the fact that it would go to multifamily, is that what?
So the rezone, the notice to the neighbors for a rezone just says, this is the current zoning, this is the proposed zoning, and the application is available in the clerk's office for your viewing. And then it's up to the applicant how much or little information they want to provide
I see.
their
So it's
application.
kind of
I
my
think
job to get them on.
what happened, if I remember correctly, in December, not only was the rezone on the agenda, but there was a site plan as well. So they did see kind of what the proposal was. And obviously they were looking at that site plan and know that's the public comment time was for the rezone, but they're gonna look at that site plan at the same time. So as I think somebody previously mentioned, it's as much or as little, if you have all your ducks in a row, it's as much as little information you can provide at the time is gonna either garner more goodwill, or if they just take the plan, less goodwill, I guess. It really depends on how much effort you want to put into reaching out to the neighbors on your own time to gather their input as well.
And I'm guessing based on the discussion that we had a couple of meetings ago, when your partner or your cohort came and talked about it, they see that on the agenda. Again, they're going to come when they see anything for that property. In fact, there weren't people here tonight, to be very honest, when they saw it. But again, it depends on how much you look at the agenda. Because they got the letter, because it was the rezone, that's why they probably showed up. Because tonight was just a site plan review and they didn't get letters. They probably didn't know to look at the agenda to show up. So, yeah, I think the last thing, and I know you're not saying you're going to do this, but I think it's much information you can give, up front, the better, so that it doesn't look like you're trying to hide anything, or that we're trying to, that we're not asking the questions that we need to ask up here, all that kind of stuff before it gets approved. So,
Well, can we together decide if we would rather go zoning next, or what was the other option? Site review? Plan review? Site plan review?
I mean,
Well,
It doesn't, they're not gonna like it. I'm gonna get noticed. It doesn't, unless you plan on building a single family home, it's instead of.
I'm not gonna give you any direction, it's your choice either way, but I like the idea of putting both on the same meeting, because once again, you're laying all your cards on the table
Yeah,
and saying,
same meeting, huh?
this is my rezone and this is the site plan and why I want to rezone to this. And then you're putting, like I said, you're laying all your cards on the table, you're showing people everything you want to do, and then they have all the information to either jump on board or.
I don't disagree with that. I would just caveat that you're likely not going to get it approved at that meeting. It's probably going to be the next one after you make whatever changes are proposed.
And that would be the approval for rezoning only? Or would that be?
No, it'll probably be site plan.
As that. Oh,
Likely,
I see.
So I would manage expectations, but yeah.
Right, so we would have that, let's just say it was next month, and then we'd take another month to refine it. Is that right?
Most likely, yeah. He said it could all be one meeting if.
So then it would be tabled. Table the idea, let's just say.
Again, I think the more PR that you can do maybe with the neighbors in advance, you know, and we were talking before you got here about some of the different developers and some of the different businesses that come in, you know. We have a Quick Trip on the west side of town now. When they came in, they got their act together.
Oh,
I mean, they knew, they did their marketing, they knew exactly what they could fit in there and everything. That was probably approved in one meeting, if I remember correctly, you know, because they know what's going on. So I think the more prepared you are and the more information you can give to the neighbors in advance, the better off you're gonna be, so.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna do both in one meeting, they gotta be complete apps. You got to go through and do all the landscaping, stormwater, lighting, all that stuff.
all of that?
Yep.
If you really want to do the rezone at the meeting, having a partial site plan you can attach to your rezone application. Like I said, you're gonna want to lay as many cards on your table as you can, so that you're being transparent. I think everybody appreciates transparency.
And if I can't get all of that done, and I did, as this lady mentioned, then would rezoning be able to be voted on, but just, and not the site plan?
The site plan would need to be on the agenda.
Yeah, so the site plan would be on the agenda. You could attach a partial site plan to your rezone application, but the site plan would have to come back another time.
Right.
As a total, they're two separate applications.
Okay.
Well, I don't think I get all that work done in a month, so I'm thinking 60 days. It's kind of where I'm going with this.
Which is fine. I mean, we meet monthly, so.
Right. Well, I appreciate your time. I'm sorry about being late.
Appreciate your time.
Even I was at your village hall downtown, so. All right, thank you very much. Thanks.
And one more comment.
Yes, sir.
I would keep the number of units low, and I think we'll have a good shot.
You do. All right.
That's my opinion, but I don't know about the folks in Livermore.
I see. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. You're not in the neighborhood though?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. Thanks, Ian. Appreciate it. Thanks for guiding me in.
All right, so we covered communications, miscellaneous business. I would entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second by Sarah for adjournment. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Adjourned. Yes. 53.